we respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Coast Salish people where we live, learn, and play. Adoption of the agenda. Moved by Trustee Schmidt, seconded by Trustee Ford. All those in favor? Motion carries. Move to minutes of October 3rd, 2017. Trustee Hutchins, is there a comment?
Sorry, I was just commenting on your new statement.
Oh.
I don't think I've heard before.
Oh, well, you did do that last time. However, thank you for hearing it.
Not being deaf.
Yes.
Minutes of October 3rd. So moved by Trustee DeGroot, seconded by Trustee Schmidt. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to report of closed meeting, Mr. Sanquist, please.
Thank you. The board met in closed session just prior to this meeting. There were personnel items, a property item, and the appointment of the auditors.
Thank you. Moving to old business, A, the action list on page 9. Anything from staff? On the policy
I
areas?
mentioned we've reached out to a policy advisor, consultant, and have got a rough idea of cost from him. And then we'll be touching base with him in the coming days to see if we can revise that somewhat.
Trustee Hutchins?
Did he look at our policies before he gave the print? Just have a sense.
Kind of got a flat rate.
Okay.
He's worked extensively in a number of other districts in British Columbia, West Vancouver, Vancouver. He's currently in Vancouver, Westminster, quite a list of districts. And you can see his fingerprints in a variety of districts, and you can tell where he's been, which is great.
Thank you. Mr. Sanquist and then Trustee Schmidt.
I was just going to say the same, that he's been in other school districts in the province.
Thank you. Trustee Schmidt?
Because of my concern of how long it's gonna take, does this person have available time soon, or is this something that is gonna happen later?
By the
Should
staff?
you guys get said person to revise that quote?
Or maybe we just decide to accept it and bring that to the board. He is currently working in Vancouver, but can do more than one district at a time.
So you'll be bringing the recommendation back? Okay, thank you. And you'll notice that I did do the submission to the Select Standing Committee on Finance and Government Services invitation, and I have not heard back. So that's just what we expected. However, just thought I'd let you make note of that. Turning to Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a number of things to report to you tonight, beginning with Nourish Couch and update. As you know, we have now a signed lease agreement with Nourish Couch for the use of some facilities at the metal shop at École Mount Provost. The next thing on the list, and they have been successful in their fundraising activities. Dare I say, incredibly successful at their fundraising activities, and are ready to begin the design phase. So we'll be working with them. As you know, the district is putting in a large door in one end of that room. But even before that door goes in, we'll be able to move some of the equipment around, move it sort of into one small area while the door is going in, and allow the designers and folks to get into that space and begin to work on it and think about it. We have offered some support to them with making drawings and those kinds of things to sort of help facilitate that process along, so that we can all interested to see that move as quickly as possible. So that's fabulous news. Currently, Nourish Couchin is not expanding their work in our schools until such time that they're into their new facility. They're completely maxed out in their current tiny little space. So we're all anxious to get it moving. Under my update, I'd like to bring a couple of things to your attention. One, the Duncan Lions Club vision screening program. We took that on as a pilot last year. It went incredibly well from both our perspective and from the Lions Club. So this year, all students in grades 1, 3, 5, and 7 will registered in our elementary schools will be eligible for the program to get free vision screening and then to work with some of those students will also be eligible for greatly reduced rates to actually purchase glasses should they need them. Last year, the Lions Club visited 15 of our schools and screened 909 students in grades 1 and 3, which resulted, as far as we can tell, and we don't have a great tracking method, but as far as we can tell, 64 referrals for students getting eyewear, which is great. And it may have been more, we know for sure of 64. So we were going to double that this year in terms of screening. So that's a great partnership with the Lions Club. In our South Zone, Francis Kelsey Secondaries had a group of students engaged with the CVRD Youth Place-Making Project. A group of students attended a full-day kickoff on September the 13th at the fairgrounds, where they're getting involved in designing ways that Kelsey can be more accessible and more connected to the community and more responsive to the needs of youth. So sort of a design piece working through the CVRD. And the students at Kelsey have taken on designing a school garden and working on a proposal to improve, Trustee Hutchins will like this, to improve road access and safety at Kelsey. So it's great that, again, our students working with CVRD in the community is a great partnership. I'm going to test our technical ability here in a moment to move on to the wheelchair at Cole Cobble Hill. There we go. So Cole Cobble Hill, two things to report from there that are pretty neat. Sports wheelchair. So Cole Cobble Hill applied for and received 2 sport wheelchairs through Let's Play program run by the BC Wheelchair Basketball Society. And so that means that students can experiment and be in wheelchairs, check out accessibility with other students who are always in wheelchairs. Who attend that school. So students are learning to play wheelchair basketball, wheelchair tag, and other games that up until now they had never imagined could be easily adapted to a more inclusive environment for kids with different needs. So it's a great opportunity for our kids to really think hard about inclusivity. Next picture, we have a Cole Cobble Hill as well. You're hearing a lot about design thinking and how that might be used in a variety of ways. In the photos you can see an example of how students learned about 3D shapes, 2D shapes and angles, and then applied their knowledge through a design process about designing a city. So it sort of has math concepts as well as a design process, thinking about how they're building a city. It's pretty cool, and we're going to talk a little bit more about design in a minute. So, Shemena Secondary, you'll see some pictures here, are working with BikeWorks, and a new teacher at Shemena Secondary, Kyle Pruniak, in partnership with Canadian Mental Health Association's BikeWorks, is bringing his enthusiasm to bear. We now have a BikeWorks satellite site at Shemena Secondary, where they are collecting bikes. So they are looking for donations of used bikes, but working there, promoting cycling, fitness, and they fix up the bikes there, work with the students there, and fix up bikes, promote healthy lifestyle, and provide opportunities to ride in the Shemena's community. So it's another great example of kids doing things that in community that matter and make a difference. Quite an excellent opportunity.
Before you go on,
Sorry.
Trustee Crock?
So if people have donations of bicycles, how do they get them to the people who need them?
They can go to the BC Wheelchair Basketball Society website, and they can find out more information.
So if people have donations of bicycles, how do they get them to the people who need them? How do you tell me
You
to
just
buy?
take them to Ximena Secondary,
Okay.
or if not, you can let us know and we can figure out a way to get them there. But
Thank you. Is the Bike Works in Chimena's connected with the Bike Works in Duncan?
yes,
Okay, so you take them to
you
Duncan?
could probably take them to Duncan as well. But if you want, and probably say to them, this is targeted for Ximena's, but it's part of the same program.
Thank you.
We will be bringing you a larger conversation at a BEBC meeting as trustees are requested around technology in the district and how we're using technology and thinking about technology. And just to bring there we go, an event that happened.
Where's he going with that?
Yeah, well, I was just sort of wondering. We were hoping to bring you a couple of video clips, but we don't have the technology to do that. No irony. It's okay. It's all good. Cowichan Valley School District has become a Vancouver Island lead district on design thinking and coding, and has been. This is the first event that I'm going to talk about. It was last Friday night and Saturday, held in Nanaimo, because it's a more central location. So it's a number of districts from around the Vancouver Island that are working with us, and we are providing the leadership, and that's in partnership with the ministry and some other partners to help us think about and expand our skills in terms of design thinking, coding, and the catchphrase that you're going to start to hear a lot, ADST curriculum, Applied Design Skills and Technology Curriculum, which is a mandatory curriculum in British Columbia now. And is the new darling of the international world next to our existing curriculum, that we have this ADST curriculum, which allows us to really think hard about providing students with the kinds of procedural knowledge they need to be successful into the future, and that includes such things as design thinking. So we talk a lot about design thinking, and the OECD has identified it as one of the major, if not the most important, single strategy that we can be teaching our kids to think like designers and to use design practices and processes. And so we're hoping in January at BEBC we can demonstrate more of that with you, and would like to invite you to attend, if you can, a variety of design thinking workshops that are happening throughout our district for our teachers. Anyway, this was one that was happening in the Nanaimo with the leadership of Glenn Posey, and Lisa really took the bull by the horns and put this event on behalf of all the Vancouver Island school districts. It had, I'm looking for the number, Glenn, a whole pile of folks. It probably says on that list. Yeah, there we go. 109 participants from school districts around, focusing on design thinking, computational thinking, including, and you'll see pictures there of some of our teachers. I think that's Ian Lowe, creating a dance, because dance is coding. It's patterns, it's repetitions, it's so Trustee Schmidt will be leading the next coding workshop. Knitting is also coding. Drumming is coding. Music is coding. It's teaching kids those patterns and pattern recognition and so on. Anyway, teachers dancing to write pseudocode. It was a great opportunity for 109 folks from across the island to get together. We had about 30 of our folks.
30 teachers for administrators.
30 teachers for administrators there Friday and Saturday. Really folks there from Stanford, from other areas coming in and working with us on the ADST. So thanks to Glenn and Lisa for doing this, and it's just the first of several that we will be hosting, not necessarily hosting here, but hosting on behalf of our island colleagues under Glenn's leadership. So, awesome event. And even though it was snowing on Saturday, nobody was leaving. People were there till the bitter end on Saturday afternoon, which is pretty cool. For board action, or unless there's questions on. For board action, we have a field trip from the International Student Program, ISP, to spring break trip they would like to take to Veradero in Cuba for their international students. This is coming to you under the old policy, not the new one, which isn't quite ready for prime time yet, but it's getting perilously close. Coming to you under the old policy. It's fully funded. These are international students, and is a pretty common thing for us to be doing in spring break.
So move the recommendation.
Moved by trustee Hutchins, seconded by trustee Schmidt. Further conversation. Trustee DeFruit.
I have two things I brought it up before. I'm assuming they will all have the proper visas and paperwork, A, and B, that they are not landing in the United States.
Yes. It's excellent that the ISP program is now running these field trips through here. And again, this is approval in principle. This is not final approval. It's approval in principle. It lets them do their fundraising and start their planning process and so on. But yes, the board does have a requirement that trips not go to the U.S. at the moment, and so they're aware of that.
Any further questions related to the motion? All those in favor? The motion carries. Moving to Secretary Treasurer, Mr. Sanders.
Thank you. I have a number of items for information. First is our standing item on BC Summer Games update. The BC Summer Games Society have taken occupancy of Duncan Primary and have had their first meeting on site. And they are also in the process of hiring an operations manager. On to bus passes, we've attached some correspondence. The district has been communicating with parents on the importance of students using their bus pass when riding the bus, around the safety issues, the tracking issues, and this correspondence went out. So just for information, bringing it to your attention that we're continuing to work with parents. Certainly there are a lot of riders with 3,700 students registered for the buses, and there are a number of them that are not using their passes, and we're trying to educate them on the importance of doing so.
Trustee Schmidt.
I know this conversation came up at advisory, but how firm? I guess it kind of got left so open-ended at advisory. I'm wondering if you could, like, is it at some point going to get a hard date? Because we've done this over and over and over again with these bus passes. Kids know they need to use them.
We're navigating that first and trying to identify the students that aren't using them to target those correspondence to those families on the importance of this rather than the general distribution to all of our riders. It might be 10% that are the individuals that we're concerned about.
Follow-up, Trustee Schmidt.
What about the students that are being abusive to our bus drivers? Regarding said bus passes, are those kids being denied a ride? Or are they getting the leniency as well, even though they're being abusive towards their drivers?
At this point, I don't believe we denied any students a ride for bus pass or otherwise.
Mr. Bennett.
The strategy we'd like to take is because we have 3,700 riders and 3,500 of those are great and use their passes, and it's all good. We want to make sure that before we get to the stage of denying a ride to a student, we know that their parents know that's about to happen. So we're not surprising anybody, we're not, and so we want to work more closely with those specific people, and we know who they are, and gathering that information, we'll work more closely with them so that we have safety issues too, even though they're not using their bus passes. We want to make sure that they're safe as well, so we need to make sure that at the said date, their parents are already aware of what's about to happen, and because we don't want to have any unsafe.
Trustee Schmidt.
So, but what I've learned is that some of those kids are being downright abusive to the drivers, so.
Principals are working with those students. They connect with those students, as does our bus staff, but also principals. And we've talked to the principals about it in the last principals meeting, and they are wanting and asked to know each of those cases because they often may have more influence in helping to solve that problem.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on,
Yes.
the next item is enrollment update. We put together a summary of our funded enrollment, which is different than headcount. This is on an FTE to show you by category where we are as of the September 30th enrollment. So there's an A, that's an actual column. That's how many kids are in the 1701. It will show 7,803 students if you look at our document. The projection that was done last February was 7,625. So explaining the differences, elementary was up 60, secondary was up 68, alternate was down 59, which probably balances mainly with the secondary as far as the total population. Big changes are in dual credit and distributed learning as well as a percentage. So that's those programs identifying students in September that may have previously been identified in February and May. So something we're needing to ensure is that our February and May counts are now accurate for our estimates when we look at our funding for the purposes of budgeting. If February and May come in lower now because of September, then we need to make adjustments on the funding side of our budget. Also put in a column for the prior year, so you could see that elementary are up by 112 over the prior year, and secondary is up 29. So you can see the shifts between the estimated and the prior year there. So most of the growth was in elementary, but we anticipated a good portion of that. That's what that means. Down below in the other categories, we've summarized the various special needs designations and included the non-funded. So you can see that there's 1,015 students as of September 30th with a designation. Prior year was 978, and we thought that number would be somewhere around 1,011. We don't actually project on the unfunded special needs column in the projected, so I just use what it actually was. English as a second language, some growth there, 27 students over the prior year, 9 over our projection, and some large growths in, actually my math doesn't work on the Aboriginal education somehow there.
Yeah.
I'll have to come back and look at what happened to the formula, but up by 34 over the prior year.
One of those parts.
Should double check that. It's actually, yeah, it's not that something happened in my formula. So for information purposes.
Thank you. Trustee DeGroot?
What school are the adults going to?
Wilkinson Road,
Okay.
predominantly.
Any further questions on the enrollment? Moving to bus hoist.
Just for information for the board, the bus hoist is 40 years old and has failed and may not be repairable. What it is, it's 2 large cylinders that come under a bus, and they pick it up on both ends. So currently they're doing one end at a time and then making do. But we're looking at options around the replacement or other options for the mechanics garage. So may come back at some other point with those options, because there may be some may need to require some of the capital money to address that bus hoist. 40 years old, 40 years seems like a pretty good lifespan out of our equipment, but it's a condition of our aging facility and our aging equipment.
Thank you. Moving to board action. Oh, 1 second, Trustee Hutchins.
So I gather we don't have an equipment replacement fund to deal with that, because it just, to me, cries for management to deal with it. But then why would we have a discretion on either bus hoist?
And that was my question at agenda planning, so please give us the.
Sure. Sure. I think it's going to be a capital item, which will require access to the local capital budget, which would be a board's decision. We just don't know how expensive this is going to be, so we want to have some various options around that and make a recommendation.
Thank you. Take us to board action.
Yeah, trustees should have received a copy of the Yates report, which was not the actual report at BEBC, but a preview was presented by PowerPoint by Bob Yates in the October Board Education and Business Committee. The report has now been delivered, and we're asking for the board to receive that report so that the board and staff can start to work with it and do some planning.
Thank you, Trustee Schmidt.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Schmidt, seconded by Trustee Thorne. Any conversation? Trustee Schmidt?
I'm really looking forward to conversations after he did his report at BBC and then surfing through it. I know that I kept tugging between Cal High replacement and do we need more elementary schools, and I know I've been going back and forth, and my confusion and do we have sites to accommodate, and so I'm really looking forward to those conversations as to what this is gonna look like. It was a good report.
Any further conversation on the motion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Just one little piece on this is follow up to Trustee Schmidt's discussion about let's get into the report. And I believe Bob Yates is available to us next week on Tuesday. And so I'd like to call a closed board meeting for us to at first take a good look at it. We normally have meetings at 4. Does that work for people?
Any chance of
Okay, Trustee Hutchins has suggested 4:30. Trustee Schmidt?
I actually have a show getting ready to go on stage, and my call time at the theater is 6, so I'd really appreciate it if we started at 4.
Trustee Hutchins, is there any possibility?
we're gonna arm wrestle afterwards.
Okay, and at this particular moment, could we decide 4?
Four.
Okay.
You're
So,
going, you're going,
Trustee?
you're going down.
So next Tuesday at 4 to start our review of the Yates report. Okay, moving to committees and outside organizations. The first is the board chair's ministry meeting that I attended last week. And I photocopied for you a bit of the report. The last piece is from Scott McDonald, who went through the Minister Rees plan for their actions. And so if you look at them, you'll notice the framework for enhancing student learning is referred to several times through the report. The implementation of the new curriculum, including the GRAD program, First Nations curriculum, Truth and Reconciliation Commission's reports, a recruitment and retention task force, a framework to collaborate and invest in leadership capacity, which I understand from the session is around principals, vice principals, and regular meetings with all superintendents 3 times a year. So when Rod is away, that's 3 more days to add in there. Ongoing partners, the usual organizations, investing in co-op apprenticeship and work experience programs, so that's really helpful to our initiatives. Investing in childcare and early learning, doing a K-12 funding review. The funding formula is actually going to take precedence over how the old ways were designed. They have a new process for doing that funding review. Trustee Schmidt?
Several times the BCSTA has reached out to boards and we've all given our input on what that could or could not look like. Are they going to use that information in their packet?
They did not reference it, but they did talk about a 6-stage funding review process, which starts with BCSTA. So that's good news, I think, for us. And they also mentioned the new Ministry for Mental Health, which probably will have some new ideas and new funding for us, which is really good. So anything else on that, folks? Moving on.
Sorry, what sort of timeline provided for this? I mean, there's some powerful visionary statements here. Provide professional development support for teachers. That's powerful because we've already been started for that. Providing new technology. I mean, provided new technology, but not to the degree we need. So, are they rolling this out to the next budget year?
They are really working madly to get consultation around a lot of these issues for the next budget. But I think it's a 4-year plan, so that's kind of the way I read it. Mr. Santos, you were also there with me. What did you think?
Well, I know the funding review portion was, they were hoping to have concluded by budget for this coming March, so that it'd be part of the provincial budget if there were funding changes in the formula review. So the formula review doesn't necessarily mean additional funding, it could just mean that the same pie gets divided into different pieces. They were certainly targeting that very quickly in the hopes that that would be implemented for the next budget process. So that one's coming quickly. I wasn't sure of really a timeline. They didn't talk a lot about timeline on the other items other than that one.
Mr. Paul?
Minister's mandate letters tend to come out annually, and certainly when there's a big change, like the government's first budget, so their last budget it was sort of a mini budget, and then when this next one comes out, I think you're likely to see a second minister's mandate letter. Hopefully it doesn't shift much. Hopefully there's continuity, and generally there is, but in terms of items on this, the ordering may change depending on budget, which order they put things in. At least historically, that's how that's happened.
Trustee Hutchins?
So is this strictly direction from the Premier's office, or is this done through consultation with members of the education executive, the ministry level, in terms of what's doable?
Mr. Paul?
Traditionally, it's the Premier's letter to the minister saying, here's what I need you to do in the next year, or get after. Many of these things aren't 1 year items, but here's your priority list. How that's determined, it's often a mixture of consultation, party platform, what parties have run on in elections. Post-election, it's often they pull items out of their platform to populate this list.
Any further discussion on that? Okay, moving to BCSTA Provincial Council summary, Trustee DeGroot.
I did send it all out to you, and if there's any questions, I'm prepared to answer them. I also would like to thank you for your feedback so that I can send things back. It was great. Got a reply that was received, so good, on time. So hopefully by January, BCSTA representatives and BC will be the bargaining people for province.
Thank you. Moving to minutes of the September 21st, 2017 DPAC meeting. Trustee Croft.
I'd like to move that the Board of Education receive the minutes of the September 21st, 2017 DPAC meeting.
Thank you. Moved by Trustee Croft, seconded by Trustee Schmidt. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to the minutes of the Board of Education Business Committee meeting. Trustee Hutchins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move that the Board of Education of School District 79 receives the minutes of the September 26, 2017 Board of Education and Business Committee meeting.
Thank you, Trustee Hutchins, seconded by Trustee Croft. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to the highlights from the October 11th, 2017 DSAC meeting. Trustee Thorpe.
I'd like to make motion that the board receive the minutes of the DSAC meeting. I'm not used to doing this.
Thank you. Moved by Trustee Thorpe, seconded by Trustee Smith. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item 9, committees and outside organizations. Summary of the October 17th advisory committee meeting. Moving to Trustee Croft.
I'd like to move that the Board of Education, as District 79, receive the summary of the October 17th advisory committee.
Moved by Trustee Croft, seconded by Trustee Dolman. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item G, strategic plan presentation to Town of Lake Cowichan. I did do that, and I refer to Trustees DeGroot and Trustee Hutchins to comment.
I was impressed.
It was very well received. Yes, yeah, it was. And I don't think I've ever been at a meeting with another board kind of before where they actually got up and talked to us in the middle of their meeting, because it was still in the middle of their meeting, and thank us for being there. So that was really, I think it was extremely well received. Thank you.
Trustee Hutchins?
Yeah, just echo those words, I think you summarized it quite extremely well.
I didn't turn to you to comment on
You didn't
my
need to.
presentation.
Oh, I saw, no, like, it was like, wow, you know, that was good.
Okay, it's done.
We were
Mr.
there.
Allen.
Just a further.
I had a conversation with Mayor Forrest the next evening, and he was raving about
Oh.
that. We need to do more, and it was great how much they learned and enjoyed it and appreciate it.
That's great, thank you, and we have 3 more to do.
Yeah, and we did have a very warm welcome, so.
Yes, we did. It all worked out well. Okay, moving to item 10, upcoming meetings and events. A, schedule of upcoming meeting and events on page 22. Trustee Thorne.
With the exception of Minister of Education visit, I have to apologize to the board. I'm going to be doing, as you can see, I started visiting some of the schools. I will be at Alexander, but I may pop in for a quick hello and then proceed to do my duties.
That would be wonderful. It will come up later on our agenda. We'll just talk about it. Anything further on the schedule? Okay, moving back to Minister of Education's visit, and just to remind people that we are at VIU on Friday at 10:15 to 10:45 for us, mayors, and Chief of Cowichan Tribes. Okay, that's right.
Oh, what was the room, do you remember, 3:30?
308.
Was that, no, 360 or 380?
380,
380.
Conference room
Yeah.
upstairs.
third floor.
Go up to 3rd floor and you'll see the board. Trustee Hutchins?
Is a single topic, the replacement of Cowichan High School,
Yes.
and has the minister had a chance to visit the said school?
For the majority of people, we have the half-hour meeting. But there's a small group going to the high school first, including the minister, to tour the school, and then walk over and show the Cowichan Place and all the people that are in place except for and our empty lot. And then having a half-hour meeting, and then taking him to the Trade Center at Coxsada School after that, on his way home.
Wonderful, thank you.
Anything else about the minister's visit? Moving to Remembrance Day ceremonies, and the wreaths are in. For those trustees who are laying the wreath, please make sure you take it with you today. So Trustee Schmidt is in the Duncan area, Trustee DeGroot is in Cobble Hill, Trustee Croft is in the lake, and I am in Schmays. Okay, just, and that's
We have
Saturday.
students in
Yes.
place everywhere except one school is not just evaporated out of my head, but like we have a DSEC meeting tomorrow and then we'll use that time to confirm trustees.
okay.
Tracy will confirm that with you.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Schedule of winter activities, page 24. Christmas concerts, Mr. L.
One late addition is Francis Kelsey, you see right towards the bottom, TBA. That is now a fall concert and it's been confirmed. Entry by donation, December the 14th at 7 p.m. in the school gym. And you will see this again in the next iteration of this, but
Okay, thank you. It's good to have a lot of advance notice for us. So that's wonderful. Any further conversation on the winter activities? Okay. No correspondence, no new business, question period. Okay, no questions, motion to adjourn. Trustee Schmidt and Trustee Thorne, all those in favor? Motion carries, thank you very much.